Happy Sabbath, kids. How are you? Are you staying warm and dry? I hope so. So just want to say good morning, and we're ready for our song. Here we go.
When we don't know the way to go.
Hi. Were you guys marching around, following the leader? Are you guys tired? Well, now we can relax and go through our memory verse with Luis. So get your Bibles ready.
Come and follow me, Jesus said. Matthew 4:19. One more time. Come and follow me, Jesus said. Matthew 4:19.
Ho, ho! You know what time it is?
It's time to hear a story full of wonder. There's so much fun we'll have learning together. So let's go down to the clubhouse with Ollie and his friends. Let's go down to the clubhouse where wonder never ends at the Wonder Clubhouse. Meet with you at the Wonder Clubhouse. Meet with you.
Oh, hello there, class. It's so great to see you today. Psst, over here. It's me, Manny. We've been playing a fun game called Be the Leader. Well, today, guess who I am? Yes, I'm a teacher. I'm a leader of a class. Want to play along with me? Yay! I'm so excited. Okay, let's get back to class. All right, class, let's take a look at what we will be learning today. Can anyone tell me what this shape is? Yes! It's a circle! Give yourself a pat on the back. Now, can anyone tell me what number this is? Yes, it's the number 3. Give yourself another pat on the back. Last but not least, can anyone tell me what this color is? Yes, blue! Give yourself 2 pats on the back. You guys are incredible. I just love being your teacher.
Ho, ho!
Hey, it's Ollie.
Hello, Manny. Ho, ho! Pretending to be a teacher, are you?
Hi, Ollie. I sure am. I'm so glad that Lucy and I made up the Be the Leader game. It's so much fun.
Leading a class is awesome. It's true. Jesus led a special group too. Just listen to this story. Just follow me through. Ho, ho!
Follow me through, follow me through. Ollie's got a Bible story for me and you.
Now follow. You did it! Good girl. Oh, hi friends. I'm Carrie the dog walker and this is my best dog, Stormy Jane. We're playing Follow Me. Whatever I do, Stormy has to follow me and do it too. Like if I make a funny face. Good dog. You followed me and did what I did. That reminds me of how Jesus' 12 friends followed him and did what he did. Let's meet Jesus' friends. Wow, look at all of them. Jesus had 12 good friends called the disciples. Their names were Peter, Andrew, James, John, the other James, Matthew, Philip, Bartholomew, Thomas, Judas, Thaddeus, and Simon. Stormy Jane, you are not in the story. Get out of there, silly dog. Let's learn more about the disciples. Peter and Andrew were brothers. So were James and John. And all 4 of these guys were fishermen. Matthew used to be a tax collector. Judas was in charge of the group's money. Jesus called Peter the Rock. Do you want to know the most important thing all these guys did? Can you guess? When Jesus said, "Follow me," they did. They became the disciples, and Jesus was their leader. Everywhere Jesus went, the disciples followed. They saw Jesus do so many amazing things. They saw him make sick people better. They saw him feed people who were hungry. They saw Jesus be kind and loving to everyone. They watched him. They followed him. And when he went away, the disciples did what Jesus did. And that's what we can do too. Just like Jesus friends the disciples, we can follow Jesus and do what he did too. Hey, Ollie. Ollie, tell me, who can you follow?
I can follow Jesus. Yes, it's true. Now let's hear it from you. Tell me, who can you follow?
I can follow Jesus. That's the truth, friends. You better believe it. See you next time. Bye.
So there's your story. It's all true. The disciples followed Jesus, and you can too.
Thanks, Ollie.
Goodbye to you. Ho, ho.
Wow, what a great story. All of Jesus' good friends, his disciples, followed Jesus because they knew that he was the most special leader. I think I got the story. Did you get it? If you did, say got it. Get it?
Got it!
Good! I better get back to class. And like Jesus, I'm gonna feed the people. Snack time! See you guys next time. Bye!
Did you guys like that lesson? So we're gonna do some counting right now. How many friends or followers did Jesus have? Let's count with Teacher Rowena. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's right, Jesus had 12 disciples. Now, let's try and have a little fun, and we're gonna play a game of follow the leader. Ready? I want you to make a silly face. I want you to touch your head. How about show me your biggest smile? How about, this is a little bit trickier. I want you to pat your head and rub your tummy in a circle at the same time. Can you do that? Sometimes it's easier to do it step by step. Maybe we'll start with the belly this time. Then we pat your head. Good job, great job, guys. All right, last one. I want you to follow a really good leader. Could be your mommy, your daddy, your older brother or sister, and I want you to follow something really good that they're doing. I bet maybe your mommy or daddy is washing dishes, and I bet you can help with that. What about your brother or sister? They're picking up clothes off the floor, or maybe they're feeding your pet dog or pet cat. You can help with that too. So, who is the best leader to follow? Jesus, that's right. Now, can you be a leader? Can you be a follower even though you're little? Yes, you can. Can I be a follower of Jesus? Yes, and we try and do that all the time as adults. So please have a great day, have a great Sabbath, and see you next time. Bye.
everyone. I can't believe we are through a screen again for the second time. But the good news is you have your jammies on probably, sitting comfy in your couch, bed, I don't know. But we want to welcome you to Sabbath School, and our teachers are sad that we couldn't be with you personally, but we're excited that we can come and still send our lesson to you through whatever you are, on a phone or iPad or TV. So we are going to continue with forgiveness. And so now we're going to get some music going for you. Hopefully you can get up and dance, and then we'll go straight into our story.
You are above every other. Your love amazes me. You created every beautiful color for everyone to see. I want the world to know, I want my life to show just what your love has done for me. In your love I'm free, in your love I'm forgiven, forgiven. Your love, it makes me sing, your love, it gives me a reason to lift my voice, yeah. I lift my voice, yeah. You are the giver of all things good and perfect. I give you all of my praise, God, 'cause only you deserve it. I want the world to know, I want my life to show just what your love has done for me. In your love I'm free, in your love I'm forgiven, forgiven. Your love, it makes me sing, your love, it gives me a reason to lift my voice, yeah. I lift my voice, yeah. I sing and dance, I clap my hands, I lift my voice, I lift my voice. I sing and dance, I clap my hands, I lift my voice, I lift my voice. In your love I'm free, in your love I'm forgiven, forgiven. Your love, it makes me sing, your love, it gives me a reason to lift my voice, yeah. I 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 lift my voice, yeah.
Hello, wonderful people. I'm Erica, and this month I'm showing you some of my favorite do-it-yourself hacks while we talk about forgiveness. Forgiveness is deciding that someone who has wronged you doesn't have to pay. Forgiveness can wipe away some pretty ugly stains. And have I got some doozies for you? Take a look. Looking at this carpet? You might think I would be living in a zoo, but nope. This is still my new apartment. Before I moved in, my upstairs landlord, Miss Watson, let her dogs stay down here sometimes. But her dogs are bigger and smellier. Be glad your handy video service does not yet offer smell-o-vision. So, let's take care of some stains, shall we? I have pre-treated this carpet with some handy-dandy mixture of vinegar and baking soda and water for the smell. But the real hero today is the carpet cleaner! The first pass pass shoots soap and hot water into the carpet. And then on the second pass, it sucks it all back in, along with all the dirt. Did you see that? Wow! Yeah! Oh, I could just kiss this cup. Hello? No, please, wait! Ah, no! Oh, come on, Twinkie! Ah, look at all the dirt! Let me just clean that. I'm sad. In today's Bible story, you'll meet someone who got a little out of control. Good thing I like power tools. Let's do this.
The Bible. It's 66 books of history, stories, letters, and poetry that fit together to form God's one big story. The epic adventure of how He created us and loves us so much that He made a way to rescue us. As we travel through the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, we discover people who met God and found their lives changed forever. And now for an amazing story, inspired by the book of Luke, chapter 15, verses 11 through 24.
Everywhere Jesus went, crowds gathered. Often He would heal their sicknesses, but He was more interested in healing their hearts. Blessed are those who hear God's word and obey it. Important religious leaders came to hear Jesus, but everybody else did too. Moms and dads, shopkeepers and tax collectors, misfits and other people who did wrong things. The last will be first, and the first will be last. The religious leaders were angry Jesus chose to welcome everyone.
He hangs out with sinners and even eats with them.
Jesus knew the hearts of the religious leaders. They believed that keeping all the rules made them closer to God than anyone else. So Jesus told them a story. There was a man who had 2 sons. Now, if Jesus were telling this story today, it might go a little something like this. They're 2 brothers. We'll call the older brother Will and the younger son Jake. These 2 young men were just a little different from each other.
Father, I finished planting the barley field, cleaned out the cow stalls, and fed the goats.
All before breakfast?
All before breakfast.
Where's your brother?
In bed.
Jake, come get some breakfast.
Oh, is it noon yet? I'm not getting up before noon.
I need you to help your brother rebuild the shed.
Don't we have servants to do that? I'm tired of people telling me what to do. I want to be in charge.
As Jake considered, he realized that one day when his father was gone, his older brother and he would split all of the money, and then he would be at least half in charge.
Why wait? I'll just take my share now.
After breakfast, Jake found his father examining the damaged shed.
I want my share of your money.
Well, you'll get it. One day.
Nope. I want it all right now.
The father studied Jake with sadness in his eyes. Then he decided to let Jake learn the hard way.
All right. You can have your share.
Woo-woo! So Jake took his half of the property in cash, and then he packed up and headed off to travel the world on his own terms.
So long, suckers!
After days of travel, Jake finally arrived in a country where the sun was warm, the breeze was cool, and the lake water was as smooth as glass.
Ah, this is the life.
Jake rented a beachfront villa. Dude ate whatever he wanted.
Pizza for breakfast, Twinkies for lunch, ooh, ice cream for dinner.
He threw huge parties and gave away lavish gifts.
Oh, Jake, you're so amazing.
Wow, is this the new SolarWare 2020 gaming system?
Well, you can have it. I'll get another.
Dude, you are the best.
But soon, a famine swept the land. Food ran low.
Huh. All I've got is ramen. I better go to the store.
Jake checked his money pouch. It was nearly empty.
2 pennies? But I had so much. Hey, anyone have an extra PB&J?
No. Don't bug us.
Jake had nothing left. At last, he was forced to work for a farmer taking care of the pigs.
Soo-wee! Hey, pig, 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 pig.
Jake was so hungry, even the disgusting food scraps for the pigs looked pretty good.
The crust is the best part of the sandwich, right? Or this.
Don't you touch that there banana peel. It's for the pigs.
This is so not kosher.
As Jake crouched down in that miserable mud with those pigs, he couldn't help thinking of home.
My father's servants have more than enough to eat, and here I am practically dying of hunger. I should go home. I will go home. I'll say, Father, I have sinned against heaven, and I have sinned against you. I'm no longer fit to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.
Yeah, that's good, right?
Jake got right up and headed home. The journey took a lot longer on foot, and he was weak with hunger.
Sinned against heaven, sinned against you. I'm no longer worthy.
At last, Jake reached his hometown. Nobody even recognized him as he shuffled down the road, dusty and ragged.
I'll just sneak into the house the back way.
But as Jake neared his home, he saw someone standing on the porch.
I really hope that's not Will.
In an instant, the figure on the porch leapt down and began to run. The man raced down the walk and flung open the gate.
Wait, it's Dad!
Jake's father ran along the dusty road toward his son.
Dad,
My son!
The father threw his arms around Jake and kissed him. Jake swallowed hard and stepped back.
Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer fit to be called your son.
But Jake's father was too full of laughter and tears to listen to any of this. Instead, he hugged his son again and led him back to the house, calling for the servants.
Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger, sandals on his feet. Bring the fattest calf and kill it, and let's have a feast and celebrate. This son of mine was dead, and now he is alive again. He was lost, and now he is found.
Wow, Dad, I don't deserve any of this. I don't know what to say except thank you.
So the father had freely forgiven the younger son. But the story wasn't over yet, because Jake's older brother, Will, you remember him? He was out working hard in the fields, and well, Will would turn out to be far less forgiving than his father.
And we're done! Check this out. No more stains! It's like they weren't even there! Huh, that's what God's forgiveness is like. God is like the father in the story. When we mess up or break his rules or don't make wise choices, God is always ready to welcome us home the moment we turn back to him. Our sins, our stains, are cleaned right up. Here's the whole story. In the beginning, God had the perfect relationship with the people he created. Then, people broke God's rules, which broke their relationship with God. Things got real messy for hundreds of years, but God had a plan to clean things up. God sent his son Jesus to give his life to pay for our sins, and because of that, every one of us can be forgiven. And it's every one of us who needs forgiveness. You may not have run away from home and wasted a fortune partying like the younger son, but each one of us has done things that hurt our relationship with God. From sneaking an answer off a neighbor's test paper to telling your mom and dad you did your homework when you were really playing a game. The amazing news is, when you believe in Jesus, God cleans away all the wrong things you've done, like that. Here's the one thing to remember today. Everyone needs to be forgiven. You, me, Mrs. Watson, her dog, Twinkie, everyone! We're going to make a mess from time to time, some more than others, but be grateful that we have a loving, forgiving Father who's waiting with open arms. Okay, Twinkie! I'll come play with you. Upstairs. I want the carpet to stay clean. Always. No paw prints. No mud. No poop. Love you. See ya.
That is one of my very favorite stories. It definitely talks about forgiveness, and it's hard to do. But this was a great way that the dad showed his son how forgiveness works. And so we are kind of excited because this week we have some of you interpret this story through your drawings. So we're gonna show these right now, and we're gonna go ahead and say who did these. And next time maybe we can have more of you participate. So this one is the father gave the son all of his inheritance, and it was drawn by Emmeline. And the next picture that you see is the son left home and he spent all his money. And apparently he spent it all on toilet paper. Thanks, Oceana, that's amazing. Very creative. This next picture is the son spent everything, so he ended up having to eat with the pigs. And you can see that Carissa showed this pig as very concerned or confused somehow. So thanks, Carissa, for that. And then our last picture was made by Riley's when the son decided to go back home. So thanks, girls, for sending those in and for showing us what the story meant to you and how your imagination saw it. We want to just wrap it up now. And why did even Jesus tell this story? Why do you think he did that? Because forgiveness is hard. If it was something easy to do, we would all be doing it, but here's the son who asked for all his inheritance. Usually you get that when the person has died. And the dad wasn't dead. The dad gave it to him because he loved his son. And then the son just spent all of it. He was very careless, didn't think about it. But the story really culminates with what forgiveness does. And he came back, and instead of being angry at him and just, scolding him, he threw a party for him and he celebrated him because he was so happy that his son had come back. So maybe this week you might have an opportunity to forgive. Maybe someone's forgiven you this way. Whatever it has been, we are grateful for this story, and we would love to connect with you this week. So Teacher Bo and Teacher Danielle and Teacher Jackie and I are going to try to set up a Zoom with you where you can see each other through your computer or your phone, whatever it is. So we're going to be sending that information to your parents, and we can all hang out on the computer and chat and see each other. All right, guys, it was great being with you this morning. Hope you have a great Sabbath, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Hey, middle school fam, how you doing? We miss you. Teacher Lisa here, and
Andy.
And we are 6 feet apart.
Trying to be socially responsible.
Yep, we're doing well over here. So hopefully you're having a good week. I'm sure you're home. Well, I know you're home with your family, so that's nice to be home with the family, but hopefully you're reading or you're playing games with the family, or you're being nice to your sibling. We know we have younger siblings in our group, so hopefully you guys are treating them nicely to help your parents out. And I'm sure you're playing video games. We know those are up. Right? Yep, just a little bit. So we miss you, and hopefully we will be able to see you very soon. And we pray for you all the time. So last week we were talking about gossip, and you had to ask yourself where you tend to fall in terms of if you were gossiping and how you would react if someone gossiped about you or if you gossiped about somebody, and you had to ask yourself those difficult questions.
This week, before we got started, I wanted to ask you. Last week we said, if you heard, in my opinion, what did you think about that? This week, I wanted to actually ask you, what is something that you have an opinion about that you would like to share? If it was just one thing that you wanted to share. Mm-hmm. So, for me, in my opinion, I think that people at Costco and all the big box stores should follow the rules of driving when they're shopping. You shouldn't stop in the middle of the aisle to look at something and leave your basket in the middle of the aisle so you can go over there and look at those pair of jeans or that box of cereal, because what's everybody else supposed to do? Go around you? You don't leave your car in the middle of the street if you see something in a storefront. So I think that people should follow the rules of the road. One side of the aisle you go this way, the other side of the aisle you come this way, and everything would flow very smoothly.
I'm sure we could all understand that. I was just at Costco this week. I'm sure your parents have been to Costco recently, and it's crazy madhouse.
Yep.
Like bonkers.
Yep.
And carts are everywhere, and they're huge carts, and they're heavy because they have so many things. So yes, we need to keep
Water
that in
bottles
mind.
up to here, right?
Yes. Only one. You can only have one
that's
pack. They limit you now. But there was no toilet paper. I was not lucky, and I didn't get eggs. But that's okay. We have enough at home. We're good.
Okay, that's good.
All right. So our bottom line this week is using kindness and love when you speak up. So
Now, there are 3 different groups of people that you probably fall into when it comes to situations where you're talking about, where the subject is something that's kind of difficult to talk about. So some of you would probably just run away from the conversation, avoid it completely, and not have anything to do with it. Some of you might sit there and actually have the conversation if you absolutely have to, if they tie you to a chair or something maybe. And some of you probably would just jump right in and dive right into the topic and give your opinion about what you thought about X, Y, and Z. So we want you to just keep these 3 perspectives in mind as you watch these videos and see where you would fall into.
Hi friends, my name is Adriana. Don't like coffee, don't like tea. I'm not a real grown-up, but this morning it's not even 9 o'clock yet and I already have myself a milkshake, so come at me. Have you ever spoken up about something and it ended up being totally awkward or hurtful or embarrassing? I mean, you didn't mean any harm, but the way the words just came like spilling out of your mouth, just like just ended up doing more harm than good. I mean, I think we can all say we've been there, right? I know I have. So when we were younger, my little sister started making a bunch of really unhealthy, unwise, kind of stupid decisions. I mean, she was skipping school a lot, she was hanging out with people who didn't really know what was best for her, and she was doing all kinds of things that could cause her pain further down the road. Now, I didn't know when or how to speak up to her because she was my sister. She knew me better than anybody, and she knew all the ways that I had messed up. And I was just so afraid that she would turn around and say, no, you are not perfect, you do not get to tell me what to do. So when I finally did confront her, it was in this moment of just like, oh, I was so frustrated with her. And instead of talking to her with love and compassion, I just spoke out of my own hurt. And my words didn't make her realize that she was making bad decisions. I mean, I didn't stop to make sure that my words were full of love and concern, and so all they did was make her feel ashamed and awkward. And in that moment, it was like speaking up just made the situation way worse. Now, if you've been there, then you know how this feels, right? I mean, just like, of course, you didn't have these bad intentions when you said those things. I mean, we were just sharing our opinion, right? We're just being open and honest. But when that opinion causes awkwardness or embarrassment or even hurt, it can make us wonder if it was ever a good idea to speak up in the first place. Now, as bad as those awkward moments can be, I think they're probably not even the moments that we fear the most about speaking up. I think most often, the place that a lot of us run into this fear of sharing our opinions is actually with our friends. Now, maybe you're like, whoa, Adriana, pause. I can talk to my friends about anything. Well, that's because I'm not talking about the everyday easy stuff you share with your friends, like who your favorite singer is, or what your favorite Disney movie is, or what gross stuff you like putting on your pizza, like Oreos or hamster food. I don't know. I'm talking about the hard stuff, the difficult stuff, the stuff that makes speaking up or speaking out really complicated. Now, think about the last time you saw a friend making a bad choice. Maybe they were hanging out with the wrong crowd, a group of people who were really influencing them to make not so great decisions. Or Maybe they were dating someone who was pressuring them to do something that they shouldn't, and your friend was slowly giving in. Now, maybe they were disobeying or disrespecting their parents. They were lying and arguing and getting super angry all of the time at home. Maybe you saw them stop caring about school or homework or about showing up to class. Maybe you knew they were watching shows they weren't supposed to, or sneaking around the parental controls on the internet, or posting inappropriate content on secret social media accounts. We've all been there too, right? I mean, we've all had a friend do something or be on the verge of doing something that we know is really, 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 really not gonna be good for them. And when that happens, if you're anything like me, you probably wanna say something. You feel like you should speak up, but you aren't sure what to say or how to say it, or if you should say anything at all. It's times like these when we start to make excuses for ourselves. We tell ourselves things like, you know what my friends are doing is no big deal. Other times we tell ourselves, if I speak up, I might make my friend mad or even ruin our friendship, so I'm just not gonna say anything at all. Sometimes we don't speak up to a friend because we think, what can I even say to this person? I mean, I have done the exact same thing. Who would even listen to me if I spoke up about this? Another excuse we might tell ourselves is, that is really, really, really none of my business. I mean, if it has nothing to do with you and it doesn't affect you, can you actually say anything about it? Maybe you've convinced yourself not to speak up to a friend because you thought, I don't think they're gonna listen anyway. So speaking up is it's not even gonna make a difference. Or maybe you didn't speak up honestly to a friend because you know that you're not supposed to gossip and it kind of felt like gossip. And even if you just brought it up to them, wasn't that doing the whole like unwholesome talk thing that you're not supposed to do, but you were doing it and what are you gonna do? Another excuse you may have heard for not speaking up to a friend is because you thought, I already told them what I think. Do I really need to tell them again and again and again? You are not alone in those feelings. We've all been in situations where we knew we should speak up, but we made excuses for why we didn't. While I think it's normal to feel that way, we're gonna learn today why that's probably not the best choice we can make. Now, let me pause here and say that I know this isn't the case for all of us. I mean, some of you have zero problem speaking up and making your voice heard. You aren't at all shy about telling your friends what you think about whether or not K-pop is the best pop, or if Baby Yoda is kind of cute but also a little bit ugly. Now, don't check out here, because trust me, this is for you too. When it comes to speaking up in situations like these, we all have hang-ups. Now, maybe for you, speaking up is a struggle and you constantly question if it's worth the risk. Or maybe speaking up comes easily, but you don't always offer your opinion in, let's say, the nicest way. Either way, there has to be a better way to speak up and share our opinions when we think they are going to be helpful to someone that we care about, right? So this question of how to find the best way to speak up isn't a new one. About 2,000 years ago, a guy named Paul wrote a letter to a church in a place called Galatia. Now, part of that letter addressed this very issue. Paul wrote this letter because he cared about the believers in that church so much, and he knew they were just trying to figure out how to live in the best way. But honestly, y'all, they were struggling, because sometimes knowing how to live in the best way can be confusing. And that's why Paul put pen to paper to help his friends out. So let's take a look at some of what he wrote. Dear brothers and sisters, if another believer is overcome by some sin, you who are godly should gently and humbly help that person back onto the right path. Now, even though Paul addressed this passage to people who lived a long time ago, I think we can all learn something from this. It doesn't matter if you grew up in the church or if this is your first time here, this can apply to all of us. Paul addressed this passage to fellow Christian believers because they were his friends. He cared about them. He cared about what happened to them. And because of that, he didn't want them to make choices that hurt themselves and hurt others. I think we can all relate to that feeling, right? I mean, when we care about someone else, we want what's best for them. We don't want them to hurt themselves or to hurt others, and sometimes that means we have to speak up when we see them heading in that direction. So, what did Paul say we should do? Well, according to this verse, when we see friends who are struggling with things that might hurt them, or they're moving down a path that's gonna lead them to something harmful, it's important that we do what we can to help them get back on the right path. A lot of times, that includes speaking up. Now, I get that this is super hard for a lot of us. I mean, like we said earlier, there are so many reasons not to say something that we know our friends don't necessarily want to hear. We're afraid it's gonna hurt their feelings or upset them or damage the relationship. But I think in situations where our friends are walking towards something that could be really bad news for their lives and for their futures, we have to care more about the person than about the relationship. We have to care enough about our friend that we are willing to speak up, even if it means that our friendship is a little bruised in the process. All right, to start, let's just try this. Put yourself in their shoes. Now, if you were the one who was walking a path that everybody else saw was gonna potentially be really bad news for you, would you want someone to tell you? Would you want a friend to stop you or help you or point out that what they saw had the potential to hurt you? Would you want them to have the courage to have a difficult conversation with you? I know I would. Well, when you see a friend in that same place, you have the chance to be that person for them. You have the opportunity to speak up and help them move back towards the right path. Now, like we said, there are some of you who are like, I am not afraid to speak up. I even kind of like telling people they're wrong. You're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you are super wrong. Well, look back at the verse again. Paul didn't just tell us to help our friends get back on the right path. He told us how we're supposed to do it, with gentleness and humility. It is not just about what you say, it's about how you say it. You need to speak the truth, but you need to do it in the right way and with the right heart. Paul says to gently and humbly help the friends you see struggling down the wrong path. That means speaking with kindness and with love and with encouragement instead of anger and frustration and judgment. It means caring more about the person you're speaking to than the fact that you're right. So speak up, but do it with kindness. Be helpful and encouraging and loving. In other words, use kindness and love when you speak up. Now, when we approach tough conversations with love and kindness, it will change both what we say and how we say it. We'll speak up because we love others and we want what's best for them, and we'll do it in love, using words that encourage and rebuild and help our friends get back on the right path. Remember, use kindness and love when you speak up. So the next time you find yourself in a situation where you think you might need to speak up, I want you to ask yourself a couple of things. 1, what does it look like to love my friend and show kindness in the situation? Maybe it's in the way you talk to them about it, the actual words that you use to have that conversation. And maybe it's in using a gentle tone over a harsh one. Maybe it's choosing to talk about it only with that friend instead of with a bunch of other people. And maybe it's simply agreeing to pray for them or offer them continued encouragement when you see them making good choices, or reminding them that you love them no matter what. And maybe it's not saying anything until you can figure out how to say it in a gentle and humble way. Whatever it is, before you speak, consider what it would look like to show the other person love in that conversation. 2, what would I want? Put yourself in their shoes. If this was you, would you want someone to talk to you about the issue? How would you want them to talk to you when they did? In other words, how would you want someone to show you love and kindness in this conversation? Think about that and try to do the same for the friends around you who need your love in the same way. So this week, keep this in mind. Use kindness and love when you speak up. And as you head out, think about this. What's one thing that keeps me from speaking up or speaking out in love? And cut.
Hi again. So we have a couple scenarios right here in front of us, and each of us are going to read a scenario, and we're going to practice out answering how we would want a friend to respond to us if we were in this specific scenario. So I'll read this one. It says, your friends find out that you keep lying to your parents about where you're going and who you're with. So I'm going to answer how I would want a friend to respond to me if I was doing this. If I was going out with friends and I was lying to my parents. So I would probably want someone to say to me that, you know, what happens if you were lying and you went, let's just say you went to the mall and then something happened and you were around somebody that wasn't safe and then you got into some big trouble, the parents are going to find out, or you could be safe or you can get harmed. I could be harmed by something or someone, who knows? How would you respond to that?
I think I would probably want my friends to help me realize the consequences of what might happen. Now, I know that if I was engaged in something like that, I would think, oh, there's no way I'm going to get caught. My parents are never going to find out. But you know, these days, there are a lot of ways that you can get caught. There are a lot of ways that they can figure out where you are and to know exactly what's going on. So I would probably want my friends to say, hey, what if and when your parents do find out what you're doing, what do you think is going to happen? And then I would probably pause and think about that.
Yep.
Another situation might be, you've been gossiping about a friend behind their back. So if I was doing that, and I would hope that maybe I'm doing it not really realizing that I'm gossiping, hopefully, but I would want maybe my friends to say, hey, do you realize that you're actually gossiping about that person? And you know, what if it was you? How would you feel if they were saying that kind of stuff about you?
So you would want someone to put yourself in that position, to
Right.
ask you to put yourself,
Right,
yeah.
so that I
you're
realize what it
checking
is
yourself.
that I'm saying.
Right, that's a good one. If I was gossiping, I would want my friend to possibly, if there were something going on with that person that I was gossiping about, and if I didn't realize I was gossiping, maybe something's going on in that person's life, and for me to be saying something that could potentially be mean or make them feel horrible.
Or not true, maybe you don't know the whole backstory.
Right. So I'd want them to point that out to me so I could check myself. Yeah. All right, so we're going to leave you with 3 questions we would like you to think about and put yourself in these situations. If you need to talk with mom or dad or sibling or maybe somebody from the group, you could text them from middle school group and see how you guys would respond to these 3 questions.
Well, actually, what we're going to do is maybe try to put a Zoom session together sometime this week so we actually can talk to each other, because we miss talking to you guys. We haven't seen you in forever. So maybe we can talk about some of these situations and questions or comments that you might have during that session. So we're going to try to get something like that set up for you, and we will contact you and let you know how and when so that we can all get together online.
Sounds good. All right, question number 1. What's an example of something a middle schooler might need to be honest with a friend about?
Question number 2. What's one reason a middle schooler might be afraid to be honest with a friend?
Question number 3. Do you think it's important to speak up when you see a friend making an unwise choice? Why or why not?
Hopefully you'll have some time in your busy schedule this week, keeping your distance from everybody and not doing anything, that you can think about some of these things. And we look forward to seeing you online, hopefully, when we get that Zoom set up. Until then, we hope that everybody stays safe. Make sure you wash your hands like we said last week, 6 feet apart from everybody when you go out, and just trust in God that He's going to take care of all of us. All right? We love you and we miss you guys.
Hi guys,
Have
we
a
miss
good
you.
week.
Love you.
Hi guys, and happy Sabbath. So I know that these last few days have been pretty strange and unique. For some of us, it's been a week of disbelief, of uncertainty, of fear, perhaps a little bit of skepticism for some of us. Every day we're hearing of things just seeming to get worse, or you'll hear things about a shortage in this or a shortage in that. And I think we're all waiting for things to get better, which they will. But you know, one thing is certain out of all of this, and that is God's immense love and care for each and every one of us during this time. And this is something that we have studied many times in Sabbath school. In fact, we know that it's during these times that it's even more important to hold on to the promises of God. If some of you guys have your Bibles with you, we can turn to Psalms 46:1 to see what it says. If not, I'm just going to read it. So here it goes. Psalms 46:1. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Now, I know your parents, some of your parents, but I know that your parents have done an amazing job of instilling in you and teaching you about the promises of God. So whenever you're feeling worrisome or nervous or scared, you know, you guys just have to cast all of that to God. And you're going to see God work in your lives in ways you had no idea. Perhaps you guys are doing okay, but maybe there's someone out there who is having these feelings, and you never know the light that you can be for that person during this time, and just share with them your faith in God and knowing that things are going to be okay. Now, without trying to undermine or make light of the situation that we are in currently, we always have to take some moment to just see the positiveness in what's going on. So now that we're kind of all stuck at home, just take the time during these unique moments that we have to appreciate the people, our family that are with us, people around us. Take time also for God. Take time to pray. Take time to learn more about Him and His love for you and the promises He has. And He's really going to help you during this time and you're just going to see Him work in your life. So now going on to our Sabbath school study, we are on week 3 of Save the Date. And perhaps this does not apply to you in your life currently, but one day it will. So we're just going to watch a little video with Marquis and see what he has to say. And don't forget that at the end, we're going to go over some discussion questions. Okay, so let's go to Marquis.
Let's talk about dates. No, not those. Yeah, those. I mean, look how much fun they're having. Dates are great, right? Until they're not. Like, maybe he said, "Sup, bruh?" to your dad. Maybe she won't stay off her phone. Maybe he won't stop taking selfies. Maybe he said you remind him of someone special. His ex-girlfriend. Yeah, next. It can make you wish dates came with an escape button. But there's a way to make dating a better experience. We can have coffee without conflict. We can go to dinner without wanting to dash. We can save the date.
For the past couple of weeks, we've been talking about dating. And one of the things that we've said is that having a dating relationship is different than anything else in our lives. And here's one weird way that dating is different. When you're in a relationship, you know this, common sense can go out the window. We all get how things work when it comes to friendships, but when we're dating, it's easy to lose that common sense. You've seen this happen with a friend or someone you know. Maybe that person is really smart when it comes to nearly every other area of life. But when they start dating someone, you're like, what happened? Who are you? For example, maybe you might have a friend who says things like, I've never dated someone like this before. We have something special. And you're thinking to yourself, let's be real here. The last 4 girls were exactly like this girl, and none of those situations ended well, which means that this one won't end well either. Or maybe you've heard a girl say, there's nothing going on between us, we're just hanging out. But then you see them spending every waking moment together, abandoning all of their friends and texting each other non-stop. Or maybe you've heard someone say, I know most high school relationships don't end up in marriage, but this one is different. I know we're going to end up together. Now, sometimes it's amusing or funny when our friends abandon common sense in their dating relationships, but also just sometimes it's kind of sad. And other times we watch people make bad dating choices and think, why would you do that? Don't you know how this is going to end? Don't you know how it always ends? In some ways, that's why people talk about regret so much when it comes to dating. It isn't that dating itself is bad. Dating can be a great part of your high school years. The problem is, when we're in a relationship, it's harder to see things clearly. And when someone can't see a situation clearly, they make choices that they wouldn't usually make. Truth be told, they make choices they regret. And what's interesting is that although we see it when it's happening to other people, we don't always see it in ourselves. It's really easy to see something or someone being a bad choice for a friend, but when it's you and me, it's not as easy. Things aren't as clear. For example, maybe one of your friends dated someone who doesn't have the best reputation, and you thought that he or she was making a bad decision. But then you met someone who also didn't have a great reputation either, and because you felt like your situation was different, you were confident that you could handle whatever happened. Maybe one of your friends had clear boundaries about what they would and wouldn't do physically in a relationship, and then they dated someone and crossed those lines. But then you started dating someone and thought, this time is different. Feelings were hovering at like a 10. And now for you, crossing lines seems like way more of a possibility than it used to. Maybe you had solid evidence that your friend's boyfriend was cheating on her and you told her. But your friend was in denial about it and stayed with him, which to you was clearly a bad choice that wouldn't end well. And then you dated a guy and got word that he cheated on you. Obviously, this guy is canceled, right? That's the smart thing to do. That's what you told your friend to do. But you said he's different. Sure, he messed up, but it was an isolated event. In every other way, he's great and perfect. So we'll move on from this. You see, we probably all tend to have some general rules when it comes to dating. Don't date a cheater. Don't date someone who brings you down. Don't date someone who treats you poorly. Don't date someone who pulls you away from your friends or goals or values you may have for yourself. But when we actually start falling for someone and getting feelings and emotions involved, those rules tend to become a little more flexible. Have you noticed this? We start to say things like, it's fine. It's just the way it is. I can control this. I won't let it get out of hand. I can handle the consequences even. And when we start viewing things that way, it can bring us to a place where we make less than great decisions. The question is still, what do you do about it? How do you save your dating life from decisions you'll regret later? Is that even possible? So let's talk about it. I think it would help to look at a story from the Bible that speaks to this issue. It involves arguably the most famous king of Israel, David. David was known as a victorious general, a really great leader, a man after God's own heart even. But even with those credentials, he still made some mistakes. This particular mistake took place during a war with the Ammonites, one of Israel's biggest enemies. During that time, when a nation went to war, the kings themselves fought alongside their troops. But look what David does. In the spring of the year, when kings normally go out to war, David sent Joab and the Israelite army to fight the Ammonites. So here's the thing, David decided not to go. So by choosing to stay home, David was basically saying to his troops, I want you to fight for my honor and our people, but I'm not willing to do the same thing. And that was just David's first move. While his army was at war, David was home and bored. Imagine week 7 of your summer vacation. You're over it. The pool is not fun. You've slept in more than you ever have in your life. It's too hot to be outside and you have absolutely no money to go anywhere. My mom used to always tell me, nothing good happens when you're bored. She always said that. And as we're gonna see, David could have been a living example of that advice. So one afternoon, summer break basically, David is walking around on the rooftop of his palace. He notices a beautiful woman bathing. This was normal. This was the sort of thing that happened back then since rainwater was collected on rooftops. But David wants to know more about this beautiful woman. Super creepy, but he's the king. So he sends someone to find out more about her. And this was their report. She is Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, and the wife of Uriah the Hittite. The messenger just didn't tell David her name. He made sure that David knew Bathsheba was someone's daughter and someone's wife. In other words, he was saying, I have an idea of what you want to do here, but this isn't a good idea. She isn't an object, she's someone's wife, and she's not yours to have. But David wasn't interested in this logic. His judgment was clouded by his emotions. He may have even realized that it wasn't a good idea, but he was the king. He was an exception to all the rules, right? So David sends someone to bring Bathsheba to him. You see, we can imagine that David made a few assumptions here. Number one, I'm an exception to the rule. Number two, what I want isn't that bad. And number three, I can manage the consequences. So he sleeps with Bathsheba. And soon after that, Bathsheba discovers she's pregnant. This was lesson number one for David. He was not an exception. He made an irresponsible choice, took advantage of a woman he had no right to sleep with, and got her pregnant. It was really messy, but he could have limited the messiness if he immediately owned up to his mistakes right then and there. But as you can probably guess, he didn't. Instead, our guy David, he panics. He decides to call Uriah, Bathsheba's husband, home from war. His thinking was that if Uriah came home and slept with his wife and got her pregnant, that everyone would think that the baby was Uriah's and not his. Now we're getting into real reality show territory. But when Uriah gets home, he doesn't feel like it's right to sleep in his own bed while his friends and fellow soldiers are out fighting a war. So he slept outside the palace instead. This was a stand-up move, but it basically ruined David's plan. So David, he escalates things to another level. He invites Uriah over for dinner, hoping to get him drunk so that he could go home and sleep with his wife. But nope, Uriah still won't go back to his house. Once again, he sleeps outside the palace. So now, David is getting desperate to hide what he's done, and he goes for the ultimate solution. He gives an order for Uriah to go back to war, but this time, David wants Uriah stationed at the front lines where the fighting was the most dangerous. Because if David couldn't cover up Bathsheba's pregnancy, then Uriah had to be taken out of the picture completely. And that's what happened. Uriah was killed. And afterwards, David made Bathsheba one of his wives. Now, we listen to this story today and wonder, what was David thinking? These are all terrible decisions. But the truth is, aren't there times in all of our relationships when people might look at us and wonder the same thing? And even though we're not going to murder anyone, the truth is, all of us are capable of making really dumb choices and getting stuck in a situation we never could have imagined. With a bit of perspective, we could have seen how our poor choices could lead to poor outcomes. But sometimes when we're in the middle of a situation, we can lose perspective. We can convince ourselves that we're the exception. We believe that we won't have regrets, or we won't get caught, or we can turn things around. We think we can make this right, that we won't turn out like everyone else. We just think that we have a relationship that others can't possibly understand. So when they tell us something is off, it's just that they don't get us. But the reality is, when we believe we're the exception to the usual consequences, we're in denial. We're fooling ourselves. And if we aren't careful, we can find ourselves in a situation like David. Not exactly like David, of course, but stuck like David, surrounded by the results of bad decisions we thought that we would avoid. It's easy to see what David did wrong, but the question is, why? Why did he continue to make bad decision after bad decision? I would say the reason is something like this. Throughout David's situation, he was asking the wrong questions. Over and over again, he was asking what he could get away with. How could he avoid the consequences? Every decision he made was through that perspective. And because he was the only person speaking into his decisions, he was able to excuse all kinds of bad ones. After all, when we believe we're the exception to the rule, we can justify just about anything. We can tell ourselves things are okay when they really aren't. And that's especially true in our dating lives. The tendency to justify bad situations or allow unwise choices doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a normal person. We are all tempted to lean away from the truth when it threatens someone or something we like. From today, I want you to understand this. You owe it to yourself to be honest to yourself. As an adult, you owe it to you to make sure your life, including your dating life, is the absolute best. So when it comes to dating, it helps to ask yourself the right questions. Here's a few that might help. Is there an area where you find yourself thinking that you can get away with something or trying to find ways around the rules? Is there an area where you find yourself thinking, that may be true for everyone else, but it isn't true for me or us? Is there anything that makes you think you have things under control, even though everyone else is telling you differently? I'll ask it a different way. Is there an area where you're just not being honest with yourself? David was the king of Israel. He was a smart person, but even with all of his power and all of his intellect, he got himself into a messy situation that led to consequences that he dealt with for the rest of his life. So when did David realize how far he had gotten off track? When a guy named Nathan spoke up. Nathan was a prophet, and the prophets were used by God to communicate his insights to people. So when this situation had officially spiraled out of control, Nathan confronted David, and David listened. He got clarity that he had been unable to see otherwise. You see, we all need a person who will be honest with us when we're not being honest with ourselves. So this week, I want to encourage you to do 3 things. First, find your Nathan. This could be a wise friend. It could be your small group leader. It could be a trusted adult. But just think about the people in your life and then identify someone who's always real with you. Then ask them to help you see areas where you're not honest with yourself or facing the truth in your life. I know this sounds difficult and maybe even scary. And listen, you don't have to tell them every single detail about your relationship. Chances are they'll be able to see things just by knowing you. Finally, listen to them. Even if you find a trusted mentor or friend and they have wise things to say, that wisdom is wasted if you don't listen. So make a decision to always give this person a chance to say what they see, to always be honest and real with you, even when, and especially when, it's something you may not want to hear. Because if you don't want to hear their thoughts on the situation, there's a good chance you need to hear it. You owe it to yourself to have a clear view of you and your life and your choices. And one of the best ways to get a real clear view of your situation is to invite a person who will help you see your situation honestly. Here's the big truth from today. Being honest with yourself now will save you a lot of pain later. And I'm not talking like 10 years from now, although that's possible. I'm saying it could save you a lot of regret and baggage just weeks or months from now. The reality is that all of us can end up in a million places that we didn't want to be, just by accident, all because we never asked tough questions and made tough decisions. But to end up where you want to be in dating and relationships and in life, to save the date, you need to be honest with yourself and let someone else be honest with you as well. Remember, you owe it to yourself to be honest to yourself. It's an incredible gift that you can give you.
Okay guys, so this is it for our Sabbath School today. Thank you again for joining us and for just being part of this little community. Contemplating on the video we just watched, again, you know, this is very much in tune with the promises of God. Whether it's dating or just something else in your life, you know, always look to God because He's going to have your best interests at heart. So just keep that with you in everything you do and just, you know, seek Him first. This week, I know that Teacher George has sent out a text message because one thing we want to definitely continue doing for one another is to pray. So if you have any prayer requests or even any praises, which we love to hear because there's always a praise, just text those over to him so we can send out our weekly praise and worship prayer request and praise report, because there's nothing better than when one of us is praying for one another. So have a great week. Stay healthy. And if you guys need anything, you know that we are all here for you. Teacher Heather, George, and myself. And we hope to see you guys super soon. Have a great week.
Welcome to North Hills Online. We are so happy you have joined us this morning. If you are part of our faith community and you're usually here at church, thanks so much for tuning in and joining us. We miss seeing you. We know usually this is a time where we exchange smiles with each other, but at least we're connected through your TV, your living room, wherever you find yourself this morning. Thank you for tuning in. And if this is your first time, welcome to North Hills Online. It's a little bit different. I promise we're a little bit more personable. Usually you'll see a lot more action going on here, but we are so happy that you're here with us, and we hope that whatever brought you here, that you are filled, that you are able to open up your hearts this morning to God's message, and that even though we're still isolated and being asked to keep a distance, God is uniting us through his love. So thanks again for being here, and now join us in worshiping with some music.
Good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a fun time at home. I want you guys all to sing. And I need you to sing really loud because I need to hear you sing. Can you do that? Through your TV. I know. Let's do this.
Wanna be close, close to your side, so heaven is real and death is a lie. I wanna hear voices of angels above, singing as one. Hallelujah, holy, holy, God Almighty, great I am. Who is worthy? None beside thee, God Almighty, great I am.
Okay, come on, let's sing. I want to be near.
I wanna be near, near to your heart, loving the world, hating the dark. I wanna see dry bones living again,
Singing as one. Hallelujah. Holy, holy, God Almighty, great I am. Who is worthy? None beside thee, God Almighty, great I am. Hallelujah. Holy, holy, God Almighty, great I am. Who is worthy? None beside thee, God Almighty, great I am. The great I am. Let's sing. The mountains shake before the demons run and flee at the mention of your name, King of Majesty. There is no power in hell, no any who can stand before the power and the presence of the great I am. The great I am. The great I am. Yeah. The great I am. The great I am. The great I am. What a crazy week it's been, huh? You know, sometimes it just feels like it can get really overwhelming. Just trying to get toilet paper. Sometimes I found myself this week just thinking, what's the future? And intuitively, I know that God's got it, right? But I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just something that I have to come to terms with. You know, one of the things that I ended up doing this week was I turned to the back of the book, went all the way to the end, because I wanted to read it again. How does it end? And here's how it ends. Jesus wins. God wins. There's a lot of stuff throughout history, but at the end, God wins. Isn't that awesome? Let's sing this one.
You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, moving in the midst. I worship you. I worship you.
You're the way make, miracle work, promise keep, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You're the way make, miracle work, promise keep, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. That is who you are.
That is who you are.
That is who you are.
Touching every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, healing every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, turning lives around. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, mending every heart. Worship you. I worship you.
Let's sing. You're the way maker, miracle worker, promise keep, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You're the way maker, miracle worker, promise keep, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Even though I don't see you are working, even though I don't feel you are working, you never stop working, you never stop working. Even though I don't see you are working, even though I don't feel you are working, you never stop working, you never stop working. Way maker, miracle worker, promise keep, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You're the way maker, It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. Sing it with us. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. Sing with us. Give
life. You are love. You bring light to the darkness. You give hope. You restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord.
Sing, it's your breath. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. Let's sing. You give life.
You give life. You are love. You bring light to the darkness. You give hope. You restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord.
It's your breath. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. Sing the bridge. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, and these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. guys know this song. Let's sing. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. For the Lord God Almighty reigns. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, for the Lord God Almighty reigns. Hallelujah, holy, holy are you, Lord God Almighty. Worthy is the Lamb, worthy is the Lamb. You are holy, holy are you, Lord God Almighty. Worthy is the Lamb, worthy is the Lamb. Let's sing. Holy, holy are you, Lord God Almighty. Worthy is the Lamb, worthy is the Lamb. You are holy, holy are you, Lord God Almighty. Worthy is the Lamb, worthy is the Lamb. You are holy, holy are you, Lord God Almighty. Worthy is the Lamb, worthy is the Lamb. Amen. Let's sing. You are holy, King of kings, Lord of lords. You are holy, holy. You are holy, King of kings, Lord of lords, I worship you. King of kings, King of kings, Lord of lords, I worship you. One more time, King of kings, Lord of lords, I worship you. Father God, we just want to worship you this morning. We want to worship, we want to praise the fact that you win. That this world is a crazy place right now. That we can have faith in you because you win. We just worship you today. Amen.
Sometimes you want to go where everybody
and you're always glad they came. You wanna be where you can see troubles are all the same. You wanna go where everybody knows your name.
North Hills Church family, welcome to my house. Welcome to my home. I assume you're watching from your home, or maybe you're running a critical errand and you're watching from there, but I'm glad you're able to join us today. It's amazing. While we might be apart due to keeping one another safe from COVID-19 at the moment, we can still, because of technology in the age we live in, gather together and make our home together in cyberspace. So welcome. We're going to start up a new series today, and I'm excited about that. I'm just glad you can join us. I hope your kids, your students enjoyed some of the programming this morning, enjoyed seeing their small group leaders, and learning some lessons, maybe having some discussion or some activities with you there at home as well. If you're a parent, don't forget to download the ParentQ app. Just go to theparentq.org/app. theparentq.org/app, and you can download that, and that tracks along with our curriculum, and it allows you to disciple your kids right there at home as they continue to grow in faith and understanding in Jesus. It's a really cool thing. And the other thing I really wanted to mention is we're going to do something different with this new series. And one of the things we're going to do different is we want a little interaction. So throughout this morning's talk, I want you to be able to text me any comments or questions, and you can text me at 909-447-9109. 909-447-9109. And you can text me at that number, and what we're going to do is on Wednesday, which we're going to get to that, I promise. We'll talk about Wednesday a little later, but on Wednesdays, we're going to kind of break down some of the things that you've said, some of the ideas, and then we're going to take it a little farther with some discussion. So I'm glad you're with us, and we're just going to kind of jump right in, because I think that if you're like me, this is kind of a time where we're a little nervous. My kids have questions. Your kids might have questions. You might be concerned about what you touch, what you eat, those kinds of things. And it's good for us to have these concerns. But at times it can feel like really dark times. And there's this great quote that I've seen. It's a promise of God out of the book of Jeremiah, which is about one of the ancient prophets of Israel who had messages from God to Israel, and there's this quote that we use a lot, and I wanted to bring you to it. This is the quote: "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Who doesn't want hope and a future, right? Like, everyone wants hope and a future. Everyone wants to prosper and not be harmed. And yet, I think we love to quote this maybe too often. We love to put it on Hallmark cards to give out at graduations. We love to use it at weddings, right? We love to use it at just kind of some awkward times, and we kind of skip the context of this verse. And so the context of this verse, I think, is going to have some application for you and I in our living rooms today. Okay? So join with me. You see, because God sent this message to his people while they were in captivity, which might feel a little bit like your house right now, right? While his people were in exile, while they were told where to be and what to do, while they were just tools of an empire. In fact, as this is what it says just a few verses earlier. It says, "This is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says to all those I carried into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon." So this is what God is speaking to us as as he says, I know you're in exile. I am your God, right? I am your God, and I carried you from Jerusalem to Babylon. Like, I was there through this difficult moment. And so before we have a promise, before there's the promise that I've got a hope and a future and I don't want to harm you and I don't want to prosper, before any of that, I'm also the God that was with you in the pain. I'm also the God that carried you in the heartache. I'm also the God that processed with you in those uncomfortable and awkward moments. I'm also the God, like, I'm not just the God who celebrates with you, I'm a God that also suffers with you. I cry with you. I'm with you always. So the context here is exile. And you can kind of feel that promises are more significant in our pain, aren't they? The promises of God, they mean something. It's great at graduation or at a wedding to say, oh yeah, God wants to give you hope and a future. But that means a lot more in our pain, doesn't it? It means a lot more when we're uncomfortable. It means a lot more when we're worried. It means a lot more when we're trying to process things and we're concerned. Promises are more significant in our pain. And so you can kind of